Moorhead Talks. This is our end of year edition, and we have a very special guest, one we've had before, Mayor Delray Williams. Nice to have you here.
Oh, great to have me.
Well,
Great to have you have me.
Well, you know, it is coming to the end of your term, you know, and you've gone through some major things here in Moorhead in your time as mayor. And
Yeah.
so just go over everything a little bit on that. First of all, how are you feeling about everything coming to the end of the term in your tenure?
Yeah, I am actually feeling really good about it. I think Moorhead is in a really good place. I'm, as a citizen, looking forward to what happens in the next 5 years. And I think things are in place to be right where we need to be. And I'm really excited for us.
You know, you haven't got that sense of loss yet that you're not going to have this to do, you know, when you're done. And
Yeah, so over the course of the year, I've kind of gone through a variety of things.
Sure.
And yeah, I'm going to miss it. And then.
Yeah.
And then we have certain things I think, oh yeah, I ain't gonna miss this, you know. So and in fact, I appreciate that. I'll go, yeah, that's kind of okay that happens, because then, you know, I won't be as teary about it.
Sure.
But no, partly because I really feel good about where we're going, and I'll get to watch it, and so really, it's all good. I'll be active in the community and just in different ways.
Well, that's what.
So I'll be around. I always get a kick out of people saying goodbye, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going anywhere.
Well, you're on a lot of committees and a lot of advisory boards and stuff. So, I mean.
And I will be again.
You will be
I've
again.
already
Okay.
started saying
Good.
yes to stuff.
Good.
It just will be different stuff.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's some of those committees that almost wouldn't even exist without your support. That took a bit of pushing to get them going. The Arts and Culture Commission and
Yep.
Human Rights Commission, and to a point, you know, that. So I'm sure they're going to be very happy. They're going to continue in some capacity.
Yeah, they're doing just fine.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, like we mentioned before, you've had a lot of things going on in Moorhead. I mean, just some of the major things we can think of is the underpass, getting that done.
Yep.
I mean, that's been 20-some years in the making. That
Yep. I
finally-
feel good about that. Put a lot of time into that, and if I have any advice to people, it's about relationship building, right?
Oh yeah. And that goes.
You need
diversion,
help from other
too.
people. The governor was really, we have it because of a relationship with the governor,
Oh.
right? He put it in his budget right away. And in fact, I still remember when, it was like my first year, he, if you remember, they had the big explosion in Castleton.
Yes. Yeah.
And I watched that. I mean, I was
Yep.
just like glued. I was doing my homework on it, because I thought, oh my gosh, I could not visualize that.
20 minutes earlier, it could have been in downtown.
Right,
Yeah.
right? How could it not be possibly here? And what will we do? And how could we make it less likely, right? And so, you know, that wasn't one of the things I thought I'd be spending a lot of my time on, but it's important. And so Governor Dayton, about that time, did rail safety pieces. And so he came and visited, and Moorhead was one of them. And I remember sitting next to him as they plunk you in certain spots. And I was telling him that we were going for the 4th Tiger Grant, which we were little by little making the dollar amount smaller. We were still going to have to figure out 20 million somewhere, which was a lot of money to apportion, right? And anyway, what he said to me, he says, "Oh, I wouldn't go for federal funds, Delray. I would go for state funds."
Oh.
And I thought, really? And he
Yeah.
says, yeah. And so I couldn't run back to the office to talk to Mike fast enough.
Oh.
So like, we need to get the information out to him.
Sure.
And so he put it in his budget right away.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we really didn't get the funding, mostly because, you know,
Well, there's all.
there was dysfunction
Yeah.
in how they were going through things. So they didn't do a bonding bill until we got the funds. But we were always a high priority. And yeah.
Well, it's a huge achievement just to get that done, and it's something that people have been clamoring for years. And
Yep.
you know, and then another aspect of it too is the diversion. Obviously, you've been involved with the council mayors on that, and seeing where it started at, and with all the acrimony that happened, and then
Yep.
with the two governors getting together, and then the mayors getting together to talk about this. That's got to be a similar situation. Like
It's very similar. Like I said, relationships, right? I really appreciate Governor Dayton in how he came, we had 5 meetings, and he spent full 5 days in Moorhead.
Yeah.
Flew down for him, spent the day, I thought the very first one he would come, do it, and then he would switch it off to Commissioner Lanware and
Sure.
Barb Naramore, and who also came, but no, he came every dang time. He wanted to make sure that that would be something that kind of moves forward in some way, that we find a solution in some way, and have those good conversations. So that was a good way to facilitate it, because by the time I came on board, there was so many feelings to be
Yeah.
able to undo.
Sure. Yeah, there was.
But it really needed the two of them to kind of lead the way
Yeah.
at that point.
Well, and speaking of which, I mean, how is that looking right now, as far as you can tell?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. We've had a lot of good discussions from there, but also with the Minnesota DNR. And so, in my indication, I'm feeling good that
It's moving
this
along.
one might go through.
Yeah.
I know Governor Dayton has indicated that he would like it part of his legacy.
Yeah.
He and I fist bumped it to that we're finishing at the same time.
Sure. Well,
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
I'm hopeful. In the next couple weeks, we'll know one way or the other. He's done January 6th, as am I officially,
Right.
and he'll want some of those things to kind of be done.
Sure. Well, yeah, we can only hope to get that wrapped up and at least
It would be
move
good.
on.
It's not, well,
It's a 10-year process anyway, and they're.
it'll be a while. Ideally, 6.5 years is how the build
Oh,
would be.
that'd be great. Yeah.
And that's part of how you save the money
Sure.
is time. And as we put it off,
It adds.
it's expensive
Yeah,
to
it's gone
put it
up, I
off.
know,
And
yeah. Well, then some of the other things too. I mean, Moorhead's gone from when you took office to where it is now. There's been some major changes in the city with now redeveloping some of the downtown areas. And what did it take to get all that rolling? I mean, obviously, again, some more relationship things and
yep.
in creating some programs to get that rolling.
That was one of my campaign things,
Yeah.
so I took that very seriously. I gotta say that was the one thing. A lot of things happened that I wanted to do like right away, which is interesting. I thought they'd take a little longer, but not the downtown. It took a long time. I think partly because we all have to have the conversations. There's so many people that have vested interest in some way,
Sure.
that want to be heard, want to be part of it. And so how you do it in a way that's transparent and kind of moves us in sort of a good way.
Right. Not just
It's
bulldozing
time
over
consuming,
something.
so
yeah.
time consuming.
Well, and then you're getting.
But I think we're kind of there. Right now, I could tell
we
you,
look at everything.
I have
happening,
about
yeah.
10 projects I know that are going to happen.
Right.
Some are like Blocky that are almost done,
Sure.
but some aren't even in the news yet. But they're going to
They're
happen.
gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, you just look around at what's going on. It's with all the development and building just in this area is fantastic.
Mhm.
And I know
Yeah.
that the plan is to continue down in this area, and and then there's the other side of things, losing some of the major stores we had. I mean,
Yeah, we
losing
did.
Sam's and Herberger's,
Yeah.
and Family Fare. But that's again, that's not much that Moorhead can do anything about necessarily. If a retailer decides to close locations for whatever reason.
There are some things we can
Yeah.
do. We can set the table so we're a good choice for
Sure.
it. We have those good
Incentivize them,
conversations. In talking to store people here, the owner of the space for Herberger's has indicated that he has 4 separate groups looking at it.
Oh, good.
One in particular that actually started earlier in the game,
Okay.
and I think will take a good most of
Good
it.
portion of it.
I have my guesses what those are, but they're just guesses.
That would be fantastic. yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it's good to know that there's enough interest that something will happen.
Right.
And we'll see in the next year.
Okay. What are some of the things you think about over your tenure? What are some of your favorite things that have occurred and that you? We've touched on a couple of big ones, but I mean, there's obviously other ones. What are some things that you think about?
The Art Commission is one in particular. By itself, it doesn't seem like much, but I think we're in a livability mode.
Right.
You know, how to make Moorhead the best place to live, work, and play. And
Was that
arts in the community, because we're in Minnesota, and I don't
Right.
mean it's because we're plunking money into arts.
Sure.
The city is really not doing that.
Right.
They're mostly just facilitating. And Minnesota has the grants to have arts more here. The arts grantors are excited about us doing that.
Yeah.
We have a considerable amount of artists that live in Moorhead.
Yeah.
They're excited about that. And there's a variety of things going. There's a we're going to be doing soon a call out for art because we have a donor for $25,000
Right.
that would like to do it for Moorhead Proud
Nice.
art, and so they can go up to $25,000. It could be whatever combination,
Sure.
and so you'll see some of that kind of thing happening.
Okay.
So I think it's kind of exciting.
It is. Well,
And even frankly, as we go into our strategic planning, one of the things that's not off the table is the idea of an art center
Yeah.
in Moorhead. But we'll involve
Okay.
the community
Sure.
before any of that comes on.
well, we need, there's been a lot of talk in the metro area of Performing Arts Center,
Mhm. And even
Right.
in across the way,
Right.
they're implying this might be the venue to do it.
right,
It's very similar to why Theater B is over here.
right,
They got a $100,000 grant from Art Space, and so they did the homework about how they become a sustainable business, really.
right,
And the clear answer is they needed to move from North Dakota to Minnesota.
Right.
That was the key issue, and that's why they're over here now.
Well, and then that makes perfect sense then too. If you're looking at Performing Arts Center, just like what Bluestem has done,
Mm-hmm.
and what could be done with a year-round facility
Yep.
that can have touring shows coming through,
Yeah.
in a different
All
way.
sorts of things, or
Yeah.
even just what we have
And what
locally.
we have here, and having a facility available to art groups who want to stage something that they can rent. There's very little of that available in this community.
In certain sizes in
Outside-
particular.
Exactly. You can find a small space, but to find a large auditorium is very difficult to find.
And
Well,
even down to our youth, although we're a hockey town, we're like nationwide in speech.
Mhm.
We're our theater groups
theater
have
groups are fantastic.
we have an Emmy, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
We have. I was just heard recently that we have the highest per capita strings
Oh, really? For orchestra?
in our high school.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have more kids involved in some kind of orchestra thing
Orchestra
than
band.
in all of America. That's what
That's
they said.
fantastic.
I thought, cool.
Like
Not
I said,
surprised, I guess.
Well, in a way, like what you mentioned about the livability thing, I mean, we've talked about this before, but Moorhead is not Fargo, and we're not going to be Fargo.
But we don't want to
We
be.
don't want to be Fargo.
We
so
can visit Fargo.
Exactly. And they can visit Moorhead. And so
Exactly.
it's not a bad idea to put your eggs in a different basket
Mhm.
and build that up, especially when there's still a need for that.
People used to say when I talk about the downtown, we were trying to be there downtown, and I
Sure.
said, well, no. What
Right.
Moorhead people express is a very different kind of view. They have there's what I used to call sort of my stroller test, right?
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
if I could visualize myself and my spouse, and we're sitting outside in some nice place on Moorhead downtown. We each have a glass of wine, and what's next to us is a young couple with a stroller.
Right.
And that made all the sense in the world,
Right.
but it would not make sense
In downtown.
in downtown Fargo.
No.
And so that's a different thing because people want to have things to do with their friends and family
Right.
when they're not working.
Right.
That's really what they're looking for. It's sort of like Junkyard. Junkyard is a good
Mhm.
example
Junkyard's a great example.
because it's all ages.
Yeah.
There may be kids there, maybe dogs there. They're probably doing some kind of fun activity.
Yeah.
I never see anybody drunk there.
Yeah.
They close at 10
Right.
during the week and 11 during the weekend,
Right.
and nobody's bugged by that.
Right. No one's complaining.
Yeah, that's
If they
exactly
want to
what.
go later, they can hit the bar area and do that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, and going back to being old school, being back in the old Ralph's and Kirby's days, and even further back to the gas lamp and the gas light and all those. Moorhead was a different town back then.
Yeah.
And kind of changing that up on the downtown area, now the big issue again is just bringing more businesses here and make it
Yep.
business friendly.
Yep.
And the artist idea of bringing in more boutique kind of things and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gentrification going on in downtown Fargo that we can
Yeah.
definitely work
Benefit
with
from.
and benefit from. Right?
Yeah, because who is being scooted out over
yeah.
there is very Moorhead,
Right.
right? Yeah, I've had some discussions with the Rourke. They're going to work on
Yeah.
studios, art things over here,
Sure.
and they have some funding to do that.
Well, in the mall too. They can, there's some spaces.
Actually, we
available
talked about
and-
the mall in
yeah,
particular.
yeah.
That's, I think, one way to kind of shift how it is
Mhm.
is bring that kind of creativity
Yeah.
here, and that makes it more interesting, right?
Right, and
Mhm.
becomes even more of a destination.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because either way, it's here.
What's some of your favorite things that you can think of? I mean, we've covered a bunch of things already. Are there some favorite things that you've done in the last several years as mayor that you?
I have another one that I really like is we are now a green step city. I feel like I finagled that a little bit. I had asked Mike way back when, and he had an intern that worked on it, but it never became a thing. And then when the new group came in, and I couldn't go to League of Cities thing, I asked them if they would check out the Green Step booth and then tell me what, and I knew they'd love it. So I feel like I like tricked them, but and then it was my way to saying, "What do you think of it?" And then they would say, and I say, "Well, do you think we should be one? I think we should."
Yeah.
And then we made a motion to look into it, be one. So, and how that changes, it doesn't sound like a big deal thing, but basically, we've made some decisions to look at sustainability in a really serious way as a city.
Sure.
So as a city, staff will always be looking at how can we do this in a more sustainable way. And so it shifts how we look at it.
Sure.
And so they'll want to get to the next step, right? We
yeah.
want to be, Minneapolis is at third step. We're at second. We're just that way from third for next year. And then we can be just as,
Wow.
Well,
That's
just
something,
there
yeah.
as big deal cities, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we really already were.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I
Yeah.
mean so it's kind of more recognizing it, thinking it out.
That's good though, and that's part of the thing is people in our area especially are very reticent to, but thump their own drum a little bit, and I think Moorhead needs to do a little more of that. Needs to let people know about it because a lot of people aren't going to know unless we let them know.
Exactly.
It's unfortunately the way it goes, but it's all right to do that a little bit. Well, okay, then the other side of that. Do you have any regrets on anything that didn't work out the way you wanted to, or something that's left on the table that you haven't been able to get to that you'd like to?
I have given JJ like a list
Okay.
of a couple things. They're somewhat minor. Some of them have some discussions with MPS on billing. I think we need to be a little more involved in that. I started discussions, but they didn't go anywhere. But those were. It sounds like they'll need more discussion, but it's going to go into 2019. We have our 150th anniversary coming up.
That's right.
And it was on one of my to-dos to start a group this year, and I did not. I didn't get to it. I got caught up in other stuff, and it really needs to happen in 2019, that we start talking about it, planning what we want to do. So some of it is minor like that, but really next year we'll taking our strategic planning out to the community and having more discussions about that in 2019, and I think the community is going to love that. People in Moorhead are passionate about our city in ways that I don't always think is every city. I know people think that, but I've gotten to know a lot of mayors, and they hit with a lot more negativity than I do.
Okay.
Because I think people really want to make our community the best it can be and want to be part of that. And here would be our opportunity to voice it.
So people get a little more involved here as opposed to some cities where they're just going to complain maybe about services they lack or they think they lack and things like that.
Here, and not that you don't get some degree of that, but mostly it's about, do you think we could do this? Right? It's sort of a different attitude, I think. Yep.
Well, that says something about Moorhead.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Who are some of the people that you've enjoyed working with over the last several years? And there's obviously, since you came in as mayor, you've met a whole bunch of different people than were in
Yep.
your sphere before.
Yep.
What surprised you about some of them? Anybody that surprised you that you thought might be a tough one to deal with, and they wound up working with them very well, or
Uh,
either from like in a political vein, or from a different agency or something you had to that.
Not really. Ideally, we're not partisan.
Right.
So there'd be some. I have been active in one party, and for me, it was good to be able to meet ones that I had not necessarily met before. But
Sure.
we all have the same goals,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And in fact, in the very beginning, before I came on, there used to be a little bit more contention
Mm-hmm.
in city council, and that was one thing I was going to not have. Once we start fighting in sort of a personal way,
Right.
you're not focusing on doing good work for the city.
Right.
It gets personal, and you're not looking at the topics impartially, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I told council that if we're going to always be civil with each other, and if you're not, I'm going to cut you off. You can't have those conversations. Secondly, same with partisan talk,
Mm-hmm.
because that's divisive, right? And whatever we do is not partisan.
Right.
So there's no necessary need for that. And that leads to those kind of uncivil discussions, right? So I said, I will also cut you off on that. And I won't say who, but I did right away in January and set the tone. I just said, that's not relevant to this conversation. I moved us on.
Right.
But, so I didn't want to like make a big deal about it,
Sure.
but it set the tone that I meant what I said.
And it changed the atmosphere.
It did.
So.
Yeah. I think it did.
Yeah. Well, all in all, I mean, I would certainly say you left Moorhead in a much better place
Oh,
than when
thank
you
you.
came in.
I hope so.
How do you feel about that?
I feel good about our community. I really feel good. Our future looks bright. Yeah. In fact, I do the we talked about Facebook a little earlier. My Facebook has always been a smiling sun, and I started because I didn't like my picture or anything. And I think at the time, actually, I was just missing the sun, and so I found a picture that I liked. So it became sort of what people know me at.
Right.
But right now, my son has got sunglasses on.
Okay.
And it really was my reflection that the future is really bright.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor Delray Williams, you've got a few weeks.
Yep.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll stay in touch. You'll be around still.
I'll be around. I'll probably have things I want you to hype for me.
Definitely.
But that's
Anytime.
okay.
Anytime. You let us know.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.